Welcome. My name is Joy Shepard. I am a nurse practitioner, IBB Pro, and founder of the Strong Heart Collective. Today we have once again Dr. Christle. She is a primary doctor. She works for Renaissance Periodization and is also the physician of the U.S. figure skating team. Today we're going to be talking about how to program, basically how to set up a workout. The intention is to help women navigate the gym floor. I have a lot of patients I live in San Francisco, so there's Barry's Boot Camp is really popular, Orange Theory, there's a huge yoga community, Pilates, running with hypertrophy or strength training. I feel like this is a very great area and a great opportunity to provide education. Dr. Christle is extremely well versed in exercise programming, specifically hypertrophy. The company that she works for, Renaissance Periodization, also specializes in programming as well, and they have an app. So if you want to check that out, you can. Dr. Christle, do you want to start off with the topic?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing is where to start because I didn't grow up always lifting weights. I actually started in my late 20s after completing my first and last half marathon. I decided that something just felt off. I didn't have a lot of muscle tone. And so I picked up a book, Weight Training for Running, and that's kind of what got me started down this path of lifting weights. So, where to start is terms of like, should I, find a program that's, strength based or hypertrophy based? In the very beginning, I would say, each of those in terms of whether or not it's power, whether or not it's strength, whether or not it's hypertrophy. Each of those has its own particular set of nuances. And I think having to talk about all three would be a lot for this session. So I'm going to, start with hypertrophy training. And the reason why I'm going to do that is for a couple of different reasons. One, I'm going to go out on a limb and sort of make the assumption that a lot of females who are sort of in that Orange Theory, yoga, running community, I would imagine that their goals more often than not is to lose fat and to potentially gain muscle. Whether or not, that's debatable, but definitely wanting to lose fat. And so making that would make hypertrophy sort of ideal for this starting point in this conversation. And when I say hypertrophy training, I think the other misnomer that we need to clarify is that when we are in a calorie deficit, when we are trying to lose fat, the hypertrophy training will make it such that in that deficit, you are not losing muscle. We want to preserve as much muscle as we can with the limited amount of calories we are giving it.
So what you're basically saying is, and that's going to be our next podcast, is about nutrition. But the nutrition component, as far as calories, is really important if you're going to focus on losing fat or gaining muscle, which is basically trying to get toned. Am I correct on that?
That's a very common, yes, getting tone. I think a lot of people want that. They want that nice shape that a muscle, the muscle has with a little bit of fat, minimal fat on top of it. We're not trying to get shredded here, but I think a lot of people really do like that that nice shape that, you get when you do lift weights on a regular basis.
And I'm just going to ask a quick question before we dive into the details of programming. Mm-hmm. True or false? This is a question that a lot of women ask me. Can I gain muscle doing a group class like Barry's Boot Camp?
I am not familiar with Barry. I've heard of Barry's Boot Camp. I think it depends. I will say it depends. Here are the things where I could see potentially somebody gaining some muscle with something like Barry's Boot Camp. They're very new to training. enlighten me. How heavy are do they just use body weight exercises, or is it very light dumbbells, or
Really lightweight, high reps, and there's a section for there's like a whole wall of treadmills, so they can cycle between running for a minute, if you will, and then going on the floor, and then doing body weight or light dumbbells, high reps, and then back on the treadmill. They also have the option of just doing the floor workout, which is
okay.
you're not on the treadmill, and just that's even more reps in the tank with
Mhm.
that type of structure.
I think if you aren't used to that stimulus, even a lightweight can produce enough stimulus to preserve that muscle. I will say that more often than not, and this is, I have been in, I have taken classes before, and I've perused what types of weights are in available for these group classes. A lot of them are pretty lightweight in that. More often than not, as you progress, you're probably going to hit a plateau, and at that point, really thinking about some of the things that we'll talk about further on in the session, like do I get a muscle pump? Do I feel a burn? How do I feel afterwards? I think if you continue to do the berries boot camp, at some point you may find that there is a law of diminishing returns because there's no progressive overload. You're not actually, progressively stimulating that muscle, and giving it the stimulus it needs to grow.
Okay. So if you're a beginner, Barry's Boot Camp, potential option for hypertrophy because you haven't been exposed to stimulus. And I'm going to say this out loud, and everyone in San Francisco is going to give me give me a hard time. But I will. I'm just gonna say it, and because I do believe in it, I think that Barry's Boot Camp, great for community, great
Mm-hmm.
for cardio endurance, to be toned and to get stronger. Once you get used to the stimulus, it doesn't take that long to get used to it. You're not going to gain muscle. Unsexy truth.
Yeah, and the last thing, and I've spent so many years dieting, chronic, and doing tons of cardio. No, my nutrition was all over the place. That's for another day. But especially for myself at the end of that half marathon, thinking like, oh, if I train like a marathon, half marathon, I'm gonna look like all of my other friends and colleagues who are naturally lean, and don't really, they already had like this toned look. I felt like a hot sack of potatoes afterwards. Like I felt like a flabby mess. And
Yeah,
so growing up in the 90s with Shape magazine and all these other female fitness magazines, I just didn't feel like um, they really emphasized lifting heavy. And it wasn't until I started pushing myself in the weight room that I started to notice all these like different little changes. And they all progressively added up to, finally, I feel very comfortable and confident in my own skin now.
that's that's awesome, and I think that that message is super important because I really want to challenge all the listeners out there that are hesitant to weight train. And I know the biggest question a lot of women have is where do I start? I don't know what to do,
Yeah.
and it's going to be intimidating at first, maybe even a little confusing because it's unfamiliar. But
Mm-hmm.
if you give yourself that chance, just like Dr. Christle and I have experienced for our own lives from doing lots of cardio, yo-yo dieting, we both even tried powerlifting, the hypertrophy route, which we're going to talk about today. It can be really simple. It can actually save you a lot of time. You don't need to spend hours and hours in the gym, and you can actually let your joints rest from doing a lot of those high impact classes, which at the end of the day, once again, it's not going to get you toned. Um, so as far as where to start, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
So I think, a couple of questions. How often, should women be in the weight room to lift weights to get that toned look? The biggest factor influencing that is adherence. So you can write up a really nice plan. You can hire a coach to write you a really nice plan. But if if it looks great on paper, but you can't get to the gym 6 days a week, that's okay. And it's totally fine to, even as little as 1 to 2 times a week, if that's all you can manage, because people have lives, people have stuff to do, they have families to take care of. So I don't want people to feel like, you got to be a dedicated bodybuilder and do, 2 a day sessions 6 days a week to get the job done. Even as much as 2 sessions a week can start to provide enough stimulus to get you the results that you want, because the last thing you want is for somebody to commit to 6 days a week, have them burn out, have them hate lifting, and then never step foot in the gym ever again. That's the last thing I would ever want anybody to do. So I tend to err on the side of doing less just to get people that itch to do more. That's a much better scenario than having them do too much and then crash and burn. So
I can't agree more. I mean, I think it's the unsexy truth, like I mentioned about the Barry's boot camp and not being able to gain muscle in that type of format. I think anything worth having just takes time. Get your reps in and just start somewhere. I mean, how many times New Year's rolls around and everyone's really gung ho, super excited, wanting to go the extreme, if you will. And I mean, even for me, it took me 10 years to become a pro because it took me a long, long time just being consistent. And even for me, I work out 4 times a week. I have a personal trainer, Mike DeRocco. He programs for me, and it's an hour workout session that includes a warm up and cool down. So it's, again, pretty straightforward. So if someone's working out, just say they want to start 2 or 3 times a week, then do you
right.
recommend those to be a total body or body split? What are your
Yeah.
suggestions?
I probably would recommend somebody, and especially in it, do a full body split 2 days a week. Also for beginners, more often than not, they're so, naive. Their muscles are completely naive to that stimulus that it'll be enough for them to make some meaningful gains without having to feel like I need to do, a push pull leg kind of split, 6 days a week. So, I would recommend a full body workout. I would probably stick to compound exercises to give you the most bang for your buck. So things like squats, things like deadlift, things like a bench press. The other thing is just getting familiar with the equipment that you have in the gym. I mean, the it's really intimidating to have to step foot and figure out, well, where's the rack height? Like I have to adjust. Like some of them are stuck, especially at commercial gyms, like trying to like take a dumbbell and sort of knock on the the rack within the squat rack to move it up or down a notch. It's a little intimidating and a little embarrassing, but even if 2 times a week, just even getting familiar with the equipment and how to do proper form, I would say that's even more important. Like getting into the gym, picking 1 or 2 exercises that you can do with really great reps, really great form. And there are plenty of places on YouTube. And I mean, we have on the training app, it really makes it nice that when your exercises pull up, there's a YouTube video link so you can actually see what good form is, because this is the time to really sink in good and proper technique to get that full range of motion, so you're not carrying those bad habits throughout your lifting career.
Yes, and this really is an investment. This is something that is worth the time to get right because it's really your foundation. If you know how to hip hinge and squat, push and pull,
Mm-hmm.
then when you're 70 years old, you can put your luggage in the overhead bin in the airplane. You can go bend down and grab your groceries. You can know how to lift your grandchildren. So the hypertrophy, even though it's the goal for a woman might be, I want to be toned,
Mm-hmm.
the extra bonus that comes with that is function,
Yeah.
really, which is again the biggest return on investment in doing these things. So I completely agree with Dr. Christle. Take the time to learn the basics.
Yeah.
YouTube, like you mentioned, I think is a great resource, and Renaissance Periodization. Not trying to sell anything at
Yeah.
all, but it is a really reputable app that has programming and videos that you can kind of plug in and take a look. Um, so during the full body, just kind of break it down. They're doing it twice a week, and each workout day they're doing, would you say, a squat pattern, a hinge pattern, a push pattern, and a pull pattern?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that that's totally reasonable for both days. You could even have the same exact exercises on both days, because right now, it's really about getting those movement patterns in. So we are going to be sticking to higher reps, but we are going to be doing something that, if it's really easy to do, if you're doing like 30 reps and you're like not tired and it feels really easy, we'll talk about how to progress up in weight, but um the key is to get comfortable in the weight room, do something consistently, and get really great technique and form down first.
Okay. So just say someone, implements that and they're getting a little bit more comfortable and now they really want to go into the nuance of reps and sets. Can you help me break down what are reps and what are sets?
So great question. Reps are, so you're doing a, for example, a squat. You're going to be moving in, doing that exercise, without pause, without like taking a break. And so if I, squat up and down for 5 times, and that's all I can, all my legs can do, all of my, cardio will allow me to do, I will re-rack that weight, and I will say for this set, I did 5 reps.
Okay. So
So
reps are the number of the exercise pattern. So again, like Dr. Christle said, if you're up and down 1, up and down 2, up and down 3, and that's the number for one set. When you said higher reps, what is a rep range? And I mean, even for me, to be honest, you guys, I've never even programmed for myself. I am spoiled. I've had a personal trainer since I was 18 years old consistently. I'm 41 this year. So I'm learning a lot too. I'm actually, you guys, look, taking notes here. How many reps is optimal for hypertrophy?
oof, it's a nuanced question, because studies show that you can do anywhere, something that you can do somewhere in the order of between 5 and 30 reps is a good range. It's a huge range. The nuance comes with something like a compound movement, like a squat or a deadlift. You probably want to stick to a lower rep range, just because those exercises are pretty fatiguing because they work multiple muscle groups at the same time. Whereas if you're doing something such as like a leg press, or something with a machine, you could probably push the envelope and go into that higher rep range, sort of 15 to 30 reps, um, and go
And
from
so,
there.
selfishly asking for myself,
Yeah,
or someone who has kind of more intermediate advanced level weightlifter,
yeah.
do you think that it's important to switch it up where, in one cycle I'm doing just say more 5 to 8 reps, and then after 8 week period, if you will, then switch to a moderate weight, higher reps, or does it matter?
You could even do that in the same week, right? Like, so depending on what your split looks like. So, for example, currently in my programming, I have machine lateral raises. And so on Monday, it's usually a heavier weight, less sets, and I'm doing rep ranges somewhere in the 8 to 12 rep range. And then on Thursdays, I do the same exact exercise, lighten up the load, and I'm doing sets of 12 to 20.
And are you lightening up the load so you don't get fatigued, or are you lightening the load just to switch it up for so it's you don't get bored, or is it more for optimal muscle gain?
I think it's for optimal muscle gain. My shoulders can take a pretty heavy, kind of a lot more volume. So we want to make sure that we're not only, we're not only able to give that heavy stimulus, but also towards the end of the week really also crank up the number of reps as well. So and because my shoulders seem to recover pretty well, Also with the later in the week, the last thing I want to do is go heavy again, because that's also going to potentially introduce injury risk, especially this far out in my diet. So sort of nearing the end of a 16-week cut, so it's trying to keep things easy.
And I think that's really important. It's training smart. Training smart, from my even own personal experience, is really paramount. So that way you don't injure yourself. And I've had lots of injuries, back pain, and again, just even older. And so I just have to be really mindful. And I think the impeccable form and being consistent and not having your ego is really, really important. So we said sets, reps, 5 to 30, and then sets. What's your recommendation?
For beginners, anywhere to 1 to 5 sets per session.
Okay.
So to start off with, you really, if you want to start off with 1 set per session, especially for beginners, you want to leave that session feeling like, okay, I feel like I squatted, I feel something in my legs, I feel a little sore. You might feel, a pump. You might feel like there's a little bit of, fluid in your legs. You might feel sore the next day or two. So, if
Talking
you're
about soreness. Sorry, I interrupted you.
no, that's okay.
Talking about soreness, what are your thoughts about that? Is that an accurate indicator of efficiency? Because I know a lot of women, they love two feelings: sweat and soreness. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So I know that there's a hot debate all over the place about whether or not that actually tells you anything. Some people are like, soreness doesn't tell you much of anything. Soreness can tell you some stuff. I'm sort of in the middle, which is the easy, safe route, safe place to take. Feeling sore is a I guess I don't want to leave people feeling like if you don't, if you're not feeling sore every single time you leave the gym, there's something wrong with you. There's many different reasons why you might not feel soreness, but you should every now and again start, especially at the start of a new cycle. You introduce a new exercise, you go up in weight, and some people don't feel soreness at all. It's a wide range of a wide range of kind of responses that people have. So, but overall, I would say in general, there is some merit to using soreness in your, to help you gauge your workouts. It's not the end all be all, but
Okay.
it is something to consider.
And then as far as intensity goes, what is intensity and how important is that when programming?
So the weight on the bar, very important. You don't want to, you don't want if things are easy for you, eventually you're going to have to start putting some weight on the bar. It's just sort of all there is to it. There are, and I know that that's also a huge myth in female, in lifting weights, is that, am I going to get bulky? I'm here to tell you right now, there are people who dedicate years of their lives who take an insane amount of performance enhancing drugs to achieve a bulky look. So, somebody who is just walking in, who is not taking steroids or growth hormone or insulin recreationally to help achieve their physique, they do not need to worry about getting bulky.
Everybody, you guys hear that? You won't get bulky. You won't get bulky. You won't get bulky. Let me tell you, I'm a bikini competitor, and there's a division in bodybuilding called wellness. And the wellness women have these huge quads, huge glutes, tiny little waist, nice shoulder caps. And honestly, if I had the genetics, I would absolutely, in a heartbeat, do wellness. However, I'm Asian. I just don't have the genetics or the bone structure to have that look, where Brazilians, for example, they do they kill it in that division. And so I just share that because I mean, I push pretty hard. Again, I just have experience lifting weights. And no matter how hard I push, no matter how much protein I take and calorie surplus, I'm not going to get that look. And so for the beginner intermediate, there is such a myth that I promise you, you're not going to get bulky. And if for a woman, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I have some patients who are like, look, I started lifting weights and I swear I got bigger. My first thought is, well, maybe they gained some muscle, but then there's some fat cushion, like a goose down blanket over that muscle,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
makes it appear a little bit more, fluffier or a little bit larger in size. But then if you shed down that fat through nutrition or walking, then you actually see the package underneath.
Yeah, that's a great point. Also, it could be the feeling of bulkiness could also come from, the increased fluid retention that they're experiencing from lifting weights. I gain 5 pounds, anywhere between 1 and 5 pounds throughout a lifting cycle or a mesocycle. And then once I go on deload or a week of active rest, my weight drops right back down. So, it's like having your period. Training is like having
Yeah.
your period. You just I'm like, oh gosh, I'm 5 pounds up, I'm 5 pounds heavier, and then all of a sudden, zoop, right back down again. It's like, oh yes, this is why the scale is just one tool. So
Very important. Just one tool, even for me. And when I am in prep, I'll track my weight every day, and I'll have sushi, and the next day I'm 3 pounds up. You add
yeah,
sushi and menstrual cycle, 5 pounds up.
yeah.
Not enough sleep, 3 pounds up.
Hmm.
So I kind of know my body, and I don't expect anyone to be as nuanced as me when am in competition prep. But the scale is just one minor tool, and I think that if someone's going to go to the gym and really go, you know what, I'm going to commit to this process because I really want to look the part, have more energy, and save my joints. I lost my train of thought. But what was I saying? I'm going to blame it on long haul COVID because I
Okay.
totally forgot.
All right.
But on a different note,
Oh, the weight fluctuations. I'm sorry.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The weight fluctuation. Yes, I would say I would encourage women look at the weight of literally the weight you're putting on the barbell or your
Mhm.
dumbbell or the Smith machine. Kind of pivot the scale number to your performance. And I think that's
Mhm.
just going to be a healthier focus because really you just want to perform. And that's going to create the look and the longevity that you want. Um, and when someone is programming, so just to kind of recap, you can work out 1 to 2 times a week if you're a beginner,
Yeah.
intermediate. When you feel comfortable, you can add 3 or 4. It's all about adherence, staying consistent, rep range between 5 to 30, as long as you're having the intensity, which means don't hurt yourself, but don't be afraid to go into a feeling of discomfort. And once you get used to the form and you can execute efficiently, I mean, I go to a really dark place when I lift weights. I mean, yeah, you really have to be able to focus and not be afraid. And that's where the beauty is in that dark place, you guys. And honestly, if you expose yourself to that dark place, your
Mhm.
resiliency for life, it transfers to every part of your life too. So I think weightlifting, even though it's exercise, uh, it really does help, I think, women feel more confident outside the gym and in their relationships, in their work, being a mom, being a professional. I think it's so powerful. I can't emphasize that. Um, Programming, how many weeks roughly are in a program?
So when it comes to consistent programming, anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks, and the biggest things is your progression and how your fatigue levels are really going to dictate that. So for beginners who are still starting out, they actually might not need to necessarily they might get to 8 weeks. They've been kind of introducing, weights in the gym. It's still pretty easy, but they still feel sore. It may be a while till you really hit that, I really need a deload week. And I don't think it wasn't, I think it took years for me to figure out, like, oh, I need a deload. My body hurts. I don't want to go into the gym. I might be getting sick. I might be on the brink of getting sick. My joints are just feeling blah. And my sleep is not that great. So, um, for beginners, I would just say anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. It's usually, the biggest. Most programs will kind of stay around there. Some people don't deload at all, or don't, will just continue training, and with, I don't know if they're progressing, but they just never quit. It's usually not a great idea. There should be some planned breaks in there. If I just in general, I think for people, if you truly are pushing yourself in the gym, you should be expecting to take a break at some point, or an injury or something else. You might get sick. It might, stop you, if you don't feel like stopping.
And just to clarify for the listeners out there, deload is, correct if I'm wrong, a week after your program. So just say if my program is 2 months long,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll intentionally create a week where I'm still doing active recovery, I'm still lifting, but I'm not going with as much intensity to let my body rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a newer concept for me actually in the past 3 years. I've never done deloads before then, and it's really helped me just, I mean, when I'm about to hit a deload, I'm ready for it. I look
Yeah.
forward to it. And
Yeah.
I used to have that mentality long time ago, go big or go home. I used to say I'll rest when I die,
Right.
and
No
I
days
think there's
off.
no
Hashtag no
days
days
off,
off.
no days off. And I know I wasn't alone in that. I think there's more research now, like importance of sleep and recovery. And I used to feel guilty before for taking deloads. Like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I'm taking a week off. I feel lazy.
Yeah.
And I used to even tell myself, oh my gosh, if I take this week off and I'm eating and resting, I'm going to get fat.
Yes. Yes.
There's this
Ugh.
fear like, oh, and it's probably embedded maybe in my Asian culture, like, the work ethic, go, go, go. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a different topic. But, I think you got to push yourself. You got to be, again, you have to earn it, if you will. And B, you'll know that your body will take advantage of that week period. And then the beauty after the deload is when you resume your program, you're excited to start again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're chomping at the bit to get back into the gym. You're like, I feel great. I can, get all this stuff done. Let's get back to work. Let's get on that, gravy train, and, continue with the gains. But yeah, it takes a while. This is not, I've done so many dumb things in training and diet in my heyday. So, this is not, getting to that level of, you know, uh, being able to train, kind of optimally, and be able to figure out your body. It's always going to be a constant experiment. You're constantly learning. I mean, I'm 12 years into this, 13 years, something like that. I can't even remember. Like, this is what happens when you get old. You start forgetting everything. Everything starts to blend together.
It's a lot of time in the game, though.
Yeah.
Good amount of time. And I
So,
think what we both realize too is that less is more.
yes, yes, 100%. So,
And then as far as, because we know with hypertrophy, needing to challenge ourselves continuously, and I like that you
mhm.
said it's a constant evolution because our body changes, our
Yeah.
hormones change. We hit
Yes.
premenopause, menopause, we have kids, injury. So we have to not let that make us feel defeated,
Mhm.
but just be open minded. And that's the great thing about workout and program. You can adjust and modify. But
Yeah.
how would somebody make their workouts intense? And the second question is, should they make it more intense week by week, month by month?
Yeah. I think the first place to start for a beginner is to start writing your workouts down, whether it's on a Google Sheets on your phone, whether it's a tiny little notebook. But every day, I started out with a notebook. Every day that I would go into the gym, I would write down leg press, write down the weight that I did, and then write down however many reps for however many sets. Take note of how you feel that day and the next day. And then the next session, when you come back in and you decide to, I'm going to do the leg press again today, you either go up in weight, or you go increase the number of sets, or you can increase the number of reps in that set. Beat your last time you did the leg press, beat it by one more rep. Do everything the same, but I'm just going to, push myself for one more rep. I think in the very beginning, and it sucks because, they're like, well, what do I do? Because there's no real optimal way. That you have three options. I think the easiest one, especially in the beginning, and I did this in the beginning as well, is I would add with lower body stuff, since I do have, I noticed that I have a much stronger lower body than I do have an upper body. So I would add weight. I would probably add somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds. And then for something like bench, because I was notoriously weak, I could barely do a push-up, I would probably I bought myself a set of 1.25 pound plates, and I would take them with me to the gym, and I would add those on because they usually don't have those 1.25 plates available at most commercial gyms. So I brought my own.
Yeah. You guys hear that? I like that. I like that you were you're your own competition, you guys. That's the great thing about all of this, is that you don't have to look around at who does what is she lifting or what is he lifting. It's really just looking at yourself. And that's the beauty of something like this, is when you write down what you're doing and you're really taking note of how you feel with all your workouts. It's all intrinsic value. You're giving yourself the opportunity to understand yourself a lot more, how your body moves, what workouts feel great, what workouts don't feel great. And that it's really building a relationship with you. And to me, that's the biggest investment. And that's power to you, because you can travel all around the world and work out anywhere from your hotel room. You can go to a standard gym. And these are just some life skills. And back to the Barry's Bootcamp. I don't think I'll ever be a sponsor for Barry's Bootcamp once they hear this. But for Barry's Bootcamp or group classes, again, no judgment, because I think there's a place for it. It is fun. There is no progression. You're doing the same thing, same reps, just different day, different time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important for women to take note, because if you're doing those classes and you say, gosh, I'm kind of looking the same, mm-hmm. or even maybe looking a little worse, where you've lost some muscle now, it's because there isn't any structured program in those classes that I know of, at least. Yeah. So this is kind of a new way of thinking, and might mm-hmm. take some time to get used to it. But again, once a week, twice a week, I think that's really reasonable to do. And if you love your classes like Zumba, Barry's Bootcamp, Soul Cycle, we're not saying don't do it. Right. If you like it, yeah, do it. But incorporate resistance training with it too, but just don't overdo it either.
Right. Yeah. There definitely is a lot of value in these group classes. It may be physically draining, but it can also be emotionally and psychologically refreshing for people to see, your friends and people that you've gone to classes with, be able to socialize. I think that's what makes CrossFit so popular, is because, mm-hmm. It became this, social thing that people would do. They would go there, they would work out together, they would push themselves, and it just became this really nice competitive group atmosphere, which, I feel like a lot of people, especially over the years, were really drawn to it initially. The downsides too, lifting weights at the gym is it can sometimes be really isolating.
I like that you say that, because there's truth to it. There's a lot of truth. I did CrossFit for a really long time. That's actually where I met my husband. And so I did that for over 10 years, and the community, I mean, mm-hmm. I loved it. People were pushing each other. Mm-hmm. I pushed myself as well. Mind you, it was also my 20s. I would hit like a 5 rep max squat without warming up.
Yeah.
So those days were fun. And fast forward now, I do more hypertrophy style training with mobility as well, just for functionality. And it's very manageable, but I am a lone wolf in a way. I do go to the gym and, I see my trainer and, we're doing our thing. But for me, and this is just for myself, my intent is it's my time. I'm a mom, my son's 8 years old. I work full time. So when I go to the gym, that 1 hour
Yeah.
is really my own dedicated sacred moment where
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about anything or anybody else. And it's really, really meditative. And so, yes, it is lonely at times. It is, maybe not be so exciting. There's no flashing lights and loud music and mirrors everywhere per se. Yet, it will give you the results that you want and something that you can sustain.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely worth trying it out, depending on what your intent is. If your intent is fun and community,
Yeah.
then again, no judgment. But
Right.
if you want to be toned, look the part, and be stronger, then these are just the facts.
Something to consider. Something to consider.
Something, yeah, I like that. Something to consider, something to be open-minded towards. And you can always reach out to us too if you have any questions. And what I'll do is I will create a little sheet of like push-pull movements, squat,
Okay.
hinge movements, and so that way you guys can just look at it as almost like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned the list, because I know women, we love our to-do list. We love our grocery list, right?
Mhm.
We moms out there, we have list of all the drops off and pickups for camps and activities. So this is just another list to add.
Yeah.
And I think it will help you stay accountable and achieve your goals. Anything else that you want to add, Dr. Christle, to this?
Should we talk about cardio really quick? Because I know
Yes.
cardio, people love cardio for fat loss, for weight
Yes.
loss, for fat loss. Most Americans are not very active. They, on average, get about 2 to 3,000 steps a day. When it comes to, health concerns, I'm all of the opinion that the, best thing, kind of the lowest, the low hanging fruit is to just get a cheap step tracker and see where you're at, where your baseline is at. Like, are you the 2 to 3, thousand steps a day? Are you getting, somewhere on the order between 8 and 12,000 steps a day, which is, fairly active? And, from there, considering increasing your step count goal to, somewhere around the order of 10,000. Just for, and this is for a couple of reasons. One, it's getting steps in is just such low intensity. It's easy on the joints. But also, if your goal is to lose fat and get that toned sort of shape, your priorities are going to come from the diet, from sleep, from heavy resistance training, and recovering from that. Cardio is the very last thing you want to think about when it comes to fat loss, because with those high intensity cardio sessions, introduces a high impact. It's highly, a high degree of impact on the joints, and also introduces a huge amount of fatigue, which, if you've ever dieted and you felt really sluggish and kind of blah, kind of brain fog, which are all, unfortunate things that kind of come with the territory of dieting for fat loss, which is a temporary endeavor, I might add. You really want to prioritize, all those other things, and cardio gets put last on the list.
I can't agree more, and I completely concur with that. And it's interesting because when I am very, very lean for show, a lot of my patients will say, I bet you're working out every day and doing cardio every single day. And truly, cardio is the very, very, very last resort. And even last year when I competed 3 times on the pro circuit, I actually didn't do any cardio. I just did
Oh,
steps only.
good.
And that was the most amazing prep. I had more energy than usual, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't rebound after. And plus with running, our body adapts to that too. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
running 30 minutes every day, well, guess what? You're going to have to run 40 minutes every day. You're going
Yeah.
to have to increase that. And then
It
the
adds up.
question is, can you sustain that?
Yeah.
Can someone sustain doing that? And I think most people, at least I know I can't, that doesn't sound fun to me. But steps I think are a great low impact way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, that's a myth buster. Losing weight, cardio is not the best tool to lose weight. It's great for your heart. I think there is a place for it, but with weight loss, it's nutrition.
Yeah, agreed. And trying to preserve that muscle that you do have while you are dieting is going to be just way so key. And uh, with women, you're doing, you could get those steps doing so many different things. I can't tell you in these last 16 weeks how clean my house has been, how clean my car has been.
Yes, yes, yes.
Go pick up, I have a dog, so I walk, I always walk the dog, but picking up after her poop, it adds up. So you'd be surprised at how much more energy you have to do stuff around, just even doing stuff around the house. That is cardio. That is, increasing your NEAT.
Yes, yes. I love that because there's such a misconception that walking means you actually have to go out of the house and walk around the block over and over and over and over. Um, I even experimented. I was with my son at the playground
Mhm.
and, I use my iPhone. If everyone has an iPhone, you can track your steps that way too, as long as your phone is on you at all times, um, which I think is the case for most people.
Yeah.
And when I'm with my son, playground, running errands, going to the grocery store, 10,000 steps easily.
Hmm.
And I just say that for all the moms out there, uh, play with your kids.
Yes.
Play with your kids. It's you're killing two birds with one stone. You get to spend time with them, which is, as you
Yeah.
know, so important for the relationship, and then you get your steps in too. So it doesn't have to be this all day thing. And with the cardio, I think what women might not realize that you might go to the gym, do 30 minutes of cardio, especially if you've been doing cardio for a long time. You might burn, I don't know, how many calories would you say roughly?
Oof. Um, you
I
know,
know that's the broad question.
Gosh, because I never actually look at the how long it's going to take for like how many miles you have to run for 250 calorie, like it's gonna, for like one beer or something like that, you're
Yes,
gonna have
yes.
to run like a mile or something ridiculous. I was actually looking that up to kind of see how many calories, because it also depends on how heavy, how much you
How
weigh
hard you go.
currently.
Mhm.
Which is also why I don't, it's so inaccurate to, rely on cardio for that, to create that calorie deficit, to get, to generate that weight loss, that if I'd rather just do it through the diet and call it a day.
Absolutely. Because if you guys think about it, just say I'm just throwing out a number for an example's sake. You're, you're at the gym, you're doing 30-minute cardio, and you've already like have work stuff to do. You need to be spending time with your kids. You're going out of your way to do this for your health. Then you go home and you're like, oh man, I had a great cardio session. I had a great workout. I'm really hungry. And just say you have 2 tablespoons of peanut butter or almond butter, right? 200 calories.
Yeah,
That was your cardio session.
that was it.
So I just use that, or a half avocado was your cardio session.
Yeah.
2 apples was your cardio session. So I share that because would you rather do 30 minutes of cardio or just cut back 2 tablespoons of peanut butter? Um, I mean, I'd rather cut out the food personally.
Yeah.
You can pay me money. I'm not going to run unless I have to.
Well, and
Uh,
it gets people in that vicious cycle of, oh, I ate something bad. I ate a donut. I'm gonna, spend 2 hours on the elliptical today to make up for it. It never works out. I've coached people who kind of had that, to try and break that, sort of cycle, and it's not easy for people to kind of get out of that mindset of, hey man, you're, and I think setting expectations, it's like you're going to be hungry, man. I don't know how to tell it to you. Fat loss, dieting for fat loss is not forever. There is this place called maintenance, which I didn't know about for a long time. I only figured that out within the last 10 years or so. And I felt like I was the last person to figure that out. I was like, oh, you mean I don't have to just stay here at 900 calories forever to, which is, at one point I had dieted
Yeah.
down to like 900 calories a day, which was ridiculous. And like 2 hours of cardio was awful.
Yeah, yeah. And I think honestly, a lot of the general population, they're doing that.
Yeah.
They're doing about 900, 1,000 calories, group classes most days, hopping on the Peloton, and they're hungry, they're tired, really, really tired. Their hair's thinning, they don't have libido,
Hmm.
and they're looking in the mirror and going, wait a minute, I'm starving, I'm tired, my hair's, dull, my skin's dull,
Yeah.
I'm lethargic, and I don't even look toned, and
Yeah.
that's such a common frustration, and I empathize with that, and that's why Dr. Crystal and I are here today doing this out of our time to really educate you guys of being open-minded and just trying, because I think it all starts in here. There is
Hmm.
a lot of mental barriers for women, which I can understand,
Yeah.
of switching from cardio and group classes to weight training. And like we talked about earlier, it doesn't have to be black and white. Just
Yeah.
incorporate the weight training once a week and see how you feel, and then slowly do twice a week. And I think if you give yourself that time, more likely than not, this might be a new way of living, because it really is
Yeah.
a way of living, like brushing your teeth. I don't think about going to the gym. For me now, is just a habit, and something
Yeah.
I really enjoy. It makes me feel good, and again, I have enough food to eat, and most importantly, because I have muscle, I'm burning calories while I sleep.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean,
As
it's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of cheating in a way, but it's like stocks. It's like the muscles are your stocks, right? And you're sleeping, you wake up, and you're like burning more calorie than somebody else who has less muscle.
Yeah, agreed. I have been, as little as 130 pounds, and I've been as high up as 200 pounds at 4'11. And, you know, I, currently I'm sitting at like 139, and I have been at this weight before with a lot less muscle. And it's crazy looking back and seeing how much I'm eating now compared to how much I needed to eat to sort of maintain the same weight with much less muscle and more fat. It was just, kind of a trip to kind of see like the physique progression over the last 12, 13 years and coming back down and seeing like, oh yeah, muscle building does happen.
It does absolutely happen. And I wanted to share a quick story. When I was prepping for my very, very first show, this was circa 2012, I hired a personal trainer. And I remember she was looking at like what I was doing. So I was doing CrossFit at the time, 7 days a week CrossFit. I would even do stair runs on the side for fun. And I was eating probably, I would have had to guess, maybe 1,100 calories. And the first thing she said to me was, ooh, we're gonna need to bump up your food a lot more because you want to gain muscle for bodybuilding. And I remember vividly looking at her going, oh no, I'm not. Oh no, no. Oh no, I can't add more food. Like, if I add more food, again, there was this real palpable feeling like I'm gonna get fat. I'm gonna lose all my results. And
Yeah.
I was so naive at the time, because when I say results, I didn't really have that much muscle to begin with. I think in my mind it was just, I liked being petite.
Hmm.
Um, and it was the biggest mental barrier. And I was thinking, I don't, if this woman makes me fat, this is going to really, really suck. And I was pushing more food than I ever have in my entire life. Because I wanted to do well in this bodybuilding show. And I scaled back on the cardio significantly. And you fast forward now, 2023, and it just feels so good to know I'll never have to starve again. I don't have to yo-yo diet again, and I don't have a perfect physique at all, but I feel good in my own skin, for me.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not shredded right now for show, but I feel comfortable with the clothes I wear, and most importantly, I can play with my son and travel with my husband and our family, and feel awesome. And I'm not fixated on just the losing weight part, with endless cardio.
Yeah, the as much as I really enjoy hypertrophy training now, I got my start powerlifting because I thought it was a nice break and sort of a distractor from, you know, I'm going to just forget about looking a certain way. I'm in med school. I'm really busy. At least I can focus on pushing the numbers. You know, how am I going to do at a meet? So, and I feel like that's kind of an easy, it was, you know, it served its time and I really enjoyed it. But what I really wanted deep down was to change my physique. And I wasn't, you know, which is why, you know, my time with powerlifting had come to an end. Plus, my joints hurt. And
Yeah.
so, uh, you know, and that's, you know, it's great. It is what it is. So, if that seems to be more appealing to somebody to work on, you know, maybe a powerlifting program or something like that, there's no shame in that. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
totally, you know, a great thing to consider. Whatever it takes to kind of get people moving and get people in the weight room, I'm all for it. Yeah,
Absolutely. I love that. Like whatever your goal is, whether it's look, I want to switch it up, I want to get toned, I want to be strong, I want to maybe I've always had this fantasy of being a power lifter. I think it's worth giving yourself a chance to reach your dreams, whatever that is, because I'll tell you again, never in a billion years I think I would ever be able to progress in the bodybuilding sport, especially at 41 this year. You know, the average age in the bikini, it's like 25, you know, and so
yeah,
old mama here, you know, can still keep up with the young spring chickens a little bit, but that's because I put time in the game. I have enough muscle now, the muscle maturity where I can just kind of maintain, if you will.
yeah,
And with powerlifting, I've tried it too for a good amount of time, and I have so much respect. I have the respect is on a different level for powerlifters, especially female powerlifters, because I will tell you, this is speaking for myself. I've never been so scared to lift weights in my entire life because I was pushing weights that, I mean, yeah, I was really, really nervous every single time going to the gym. And,
yeah,
you know, the work ethic is pretty, again, inspirational. But it's something for me personally that I wasn't able to, I would need it more time,
yeah,
to really excel in powerlifting. And hey, never say never.
yeah,
Maybe one day I'll explore it. But what I did gain from powerlifting was the basics, the
yeah.
squat. So powerlifting is three movements: the bench press, the squat,
Hmm.
and the deadlift. Three,
Yeah,
three movements. And uh, what it taught me is that you don't need to do a whole lot.
yeah,
If you work on impeccable form and you push yourself,
yeah,
you don't 5 reps in the tank and I'm dead. You know, I'm done. Do 10 reps in the tank, I'm feeling about to have a heart attack. You know, that's my version of cardio is 10 reps anything. I'm like, whoo, I'm a little out of breath there. Maybe I should add a day or two of cardio for my heart condition for endurance. But yeah, whatever your goal is, don't be afraid to experiment and play around and have fun with it. Have
yeah,
fun,
yeah,
right? Life is short. Just there's nothing to lose, all to gain. We covered a lot, and I think this was a
good.
great kind of 101 introductory of how to program. Our next podcast will be about nutrition. So, how to program your food, if you will, so you can
Hmm.
train optimally, whether you're just trying to maintain, gain weight, or lose weight. But if you guys have any questions for us, we can address it at our next podcast. So just send us a message, DM myself or DM Dr. Christle, and anything else that you want to add before we close out.
You know, lifting weights has given me such joy and has been such a positive impact on every part of my life, from just doing stuff around the house to being able to lift luggage to help people, you know, to be able to take care of people who maybe, you know, need some assistance in the healthcare field. So it's, you know, if there was something I could, you know, bottle up and sell people to make them interested in lifting, boy, you know, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be selling that on the internet somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for sharing that because I'm going to go deep, you guys, because you know I'm a philosophical person. But if I die, knock on wood, tomorrow, and um, I can, and if I knew that women were like, Joy and Dr. Christle, they helped me overcome my fear and lift weights, and that has made me strong for life. Strong for life. I really feel like my mission on earth is
Yeah.
complete, because I really genuinely, authentically want women, all people, but this
Yeah.
Strong Heart community is for women. It's a woman focused group, but for women to be badasses,
Yeah.
and not to play small in life, and to go all out with whatever you do. And I promise you, it has changed my life literally in every aspect. But most importantly, if I had to say, how has weightlifting contributed to my livelihood? It's my self-worth, the trust
Agreed.
in myself. If I say, look, I'm going to hit legs today, unless I'm sick or my family's sick, unless there's an emergency, I'm going to hit those damn legs. And it's a commitment I make to myself, right? It's just 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day. I train 4 times a week. That's it. I'm not even sweating a whole lot. I mean, pushing the intensity,
Yeah.
but I can recover. And that for me is a version of self-respect. I love my body, my temple. This is the vehicle, the only one vehicle I have. It's not a lease. I can't return
Yeah.
it, and it ages in time. And so I have to, if I love myself enough, I'm going to give myself the best opportunity to take care of this body, so I can spend time with the people I love before my time's up. Because look,
Yeah.
we're all going to die. Unsexy
Exactly.
truth.
Yeah. Death
Unsexy
is
truth, but
guaranteed.
it's true. There's only so many things you can guarantee life, right? Taxes, IRS will get you, so pay your taxes, and then we all age and we all die.
Yeah.
So the question really is like, what kind of quality life do you want to have in this time on earth?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, on that note, thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.